Welcome back in. This is the Jake Asman Show, coming at you coast to coast on SportsMap Radio affiliates nationwide. My football team, the New York Jets, they have the second pick in the NFL draft. They have the 23rd pick in the NFL draft. They have a total of 10 picks in the upcoming NFL draft Thursday night in Cleveland, which means the Jets are a national story. So selfishly, I get to continue to talk about them. So without further ado, let's continue the Jet conversation. We go out to the Progressive guest line right now. We bring on the Jets team reporter, Ethan Greenberg. He's been with the team a number of years. And Ethan, I have to imagine, covering this team the last few years, you must be pumped about the new era of Jets football. And as I mentioned, the Jets having all these picks, all these new players, you're going to get a chance to cover up close.
Well, you mentioned selfishly that you get to talk about the Jets. Selfishly, I love the draft. And to have 10 picks in the draft, 5 in the first 3 rounds of top 86, I'm very excited. And throughout the course of this draft season, Dane Brugler of The Athletic and I have previewed each position in terms of number 2 overall, 23 overall, 34, 66, 86. So I'm really excited to see how it all comes together Thursday night in Cleveland, and Friday and Saturday.
No doubt. So before we even get to the draft, it's basically a brand new era of Jets football right now. You have a new head coach in Robert Saleh. The fan base is energized about that hiring. I think most of the fan base has a strong confidence that Joe Douglas is the right guy, to turn this franchise around, making all the right picks. And the Jets have had an exciting free agent period. But you're in the building every day. What's the vibe like? Does it feel different than it's been the last couple of years you've been around the team?
Well, I think, generally speaking, I just think the excitement is real. You mentioned Coach Saleh. I mean, even just watching Coach Saleh's press conferences, he had a pre-draft press conference last week. It's hard not to get very excited about having Coach Saleh as your head coach. He's very thoughtful. He's energetic. But even talking to someone like Carl Lawson when he signed with the Jets, he was saying how Coach Saleh, you can tell that the energy is there, but it's almost like, you know what, right now, we're cool, we're calm, we're collected. And then once we hit the field, the intensity will kick up a little bit. So I think the vibe, as far as the coaching side, is legit. And for the personnel side, with Joe Douglas and Rex Hogan, the assistant GM, Phil Savage, that whole department. I mean, the list goes on and on. Greg Nejma, Chad Alexander. I'm missing a couple guys there. But I think the excitement is real because Joe Douglas has always talked about building his team through the draft, and to have 21 picks over the next 2 years, the blueprint is there. And to see what the Jets will do with the picks is going to be interesting to see what actually happens. But I think there is an excitement, but it's more of like we still have to do the work excitement.
Ethan Greenberg, the New York Jets team reporter, joining us here on the Jake Asman Show. They do have the 21 picks over the next 2 drafts. The most recent trade they made gave them 3 more of those picks. That, of course, was the Sam Darnold deal. I know you had a very close relationship with Sam. You've covered his entire career, in the NFL with the Jets. What were your takeaways on the deal? He gets a fresh start, of course, with the Panthers, and now the Jets, they are, all set to take a quarterback, of course, probably Zach Wilson, which we'll get to with that second overall pick.
So I think what Joe Douglas said when it was the right move in both the short and the long term for both parties, I think that's a fair way to put it. And even hearing different outlets break down the trade from Sam's perspective, you go to a team that has playmakers around him, which was obviously the knock on the Jets, where, maybe Sam wasn't set up to succeed here. And then in terms of the Jets, you get to reset the financial clock in terms of your rookie quarterback, and you get the opportunity just to start fresh. If you're Joe Douglas, you bring in a new head coach. He said it's a fair assessment that a quarterback will be selected too, which should not be a surprise to anybody, especially after they traded Sam Darnold. So now you're bringing in a rookie quarterback, and you're kind of marrying those two together. We actually spoke to Mike Tannenbaum, who works for ESPN and, of course, was the GM of the Jets a few years ago. And he was saying that when you marry those people, now you're really starting to put everything together, and you can start to put your imprint and move forward. And it's really nothing against Sam Darnold, because I think both Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh both said that they really do believe in Sam as a person and as a player. But I really think that the timing wasn't right for the Jets, and the stars kind of aligned. You hope that you never pick in the top 3 again. So it's kind of a unique opportunity for the Jets to reset the financial clock, get their rookie in, marry him with a rookie head coach, and move forward from there.
All signs point to that rookie, of course, being the quarterback at a BYU, Zach Wilson. So when you watch Wilson, Ethan, when you evaluate what he could bring to the Jets offense, what stands out to you? Why do you think, so many people consider him maybe not the best prospect in the draft, because Trevor Lawrence, of course, is there, but certainly one of the better quarterback prospects we've seen over the last couple drafts?
Well, I get the privilege each week to talk to Dane Brugler of The Athletic, who does a fantastic job breaking down each prospect. And what he was actually, I think, one of, if not the first person to have Zach Wilson as the second quarterback selected in the draft. He actually put that in a mock draft in October, and people were like, what are you talking about? Who is this guy? And since, it seems to be coming to fruition pretty well. And Dane, what he says in terms of Wilson is really the off-platform stuff and the accuracy throwing deep. And I think what a lot of analysts say why Zach Wilson is the right choice for the Jets, outside of talent, it definitely seems like that whatever system was run in Provo, Utah at BYU is similar to what the Jets will run under the Shanahan tree, which will be coordinated by Mike LaFleur. And we don't really know exactly what the offense will look like, but I think that play action will be a big part of it. You think about the signing of Corey Davis. He was fourth in the NFL last year in play action receiving yards, which is yards that come off of play action passes. The three receivers in front of him, Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, and Stephon Diggs. Pretty good list to be on there. So when you marry Corey Davis with that, Zach Wilson, the ability to throw from any platform and be reliant on a run game and then take shots down the field and his accuracy down the field, I think those are the traits that you like in a quarterback. And obviously there are questions with Wilson, as there are with all the quarterback prospects. No quarterback prospect is perfect, and they're not finished products either. A lot of Zach Wilson's success in the NFL will be determined on his development by the team that drafts him. And in this case, what you're saying, let's say by the Jets. So that'll be Mike LaFleur, Robert Saleh, and the supporting cast around Wilson. So I think those are important elements to take into factor here, because I think those were the elements that might have been missing from when Sam Darnold was here with the Jets, because everyone, or I think a lot of people, believed in Sam Darnold, and you saw flashes, but it was really the consistency with him. And I think that, hopefully speaking, whoever that quarterback is for the Jets on Thursday night will have a good supporting cast, both on the field and off the field.
Ethan Greenberg is our guest. He covers the Jets for the Jets website. You can find him on Twitter. I'll pull it up right here for you, at Ethan Greenberg, I believe. Or I'm sorry, Ethan, let me pull it up. Greenberg Jets is the official Twitter handle for Ethan. As far as just Wilson, having the right temperament, the right personality for New York, that's always a question when you talk about being the quarterback of either the Jets or the Giants, for that matter. Sam Darnold never made excuses. He always took accountability, always took the blame, maybe even to, his own fault. He was such a nice guy. From what you've heard about Wilson, from the people you've spoken to, Ethan, how do you think Zach Wilson's personality fits the Jets, if it is indeed Wilson at 2?
Well, I just want to say that I think this is a great point to make, because you think of what the pre-draft process is. Film, big part of it. The pro days this year, a huge part of it, but also the meetings with teams. And in this case, when you're talking about Zach Wilson being an underclassman, when he meets with the teams, it's all virtual through Zoom, unless it's like a quick hello, probably at their pro day in Provo. So I think that, with that being said, that's what teams are figuring out, not only about Wilson, but about all prospects. Do they fit your culture that you want to have in your building? And I know that Zach Wilson has a baby face. Actually, Kirk Herbstreit on QB21 called him the baby face assassin. And he does have young looks. But with that being said, listening to him talk, he definitely seems like he has the right headspace. I mean, I don't know if that's the proper way to say it, but he looks like he's mature beyond his years, just being a young kid who I don't think has ever really played outside of the state of Utah. So I think that it'll be interesting to see what happens. But listening to him talk in different interviews, I've watched a couple interviews on BYU Sports Network, Sports Nation, and he seems to have a good way about him. He's thoughtful in his answers. And, as someone that is on the content side of things, I like guys like that. So can he lead an NFL locker room? That's what Joe Douglas is figuring out. And that's what all NFL teams are figuring out. But on a personal note, yeah, I like what I hear from Zach Wilson, but it's all going to, come down to what happens when you put pads on, because a lot of players look good in shorts and a t-shirt, and that goes for all prospects, not just quarterbacks or Zach Wilson in particular. So it'll come down to what happens when he puts pads on and you get hit in the mouth a little bit.
Content wise, both you and the other team reporter, Olivia Landis, you guys got to be asking Zach Wilson about his, Chipotle sponsorship. He already has.
You're a big Chipotle guy, aren't you?
Huge Chipotle guy, Ethan. That's one thing that I think anyone who listens to my show or follows me on Twitter is well aware. Huge Chipotle guy. I see, Zach Wilson getting a Chipotle deal. As a Jet fan here, Ethan, I'm already in love with the guy.
What do you think about he didn't put this in the order, but what are Jake Asman's thoughts on the tortilla on the side if you get a bowl? Is that a good move?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm all about maximizing your order, and if you're hungry, maybe the bowl doesn't do it for you. Even if you ask for a little extra rice, or you go half chicken, half steak, which everyone knows they give you the same amount, so that's how you maximize the order. But tortilla on the side, I mean, that would be a great question to ask Zach Wilson. Does he go with the tortilla on the side when he's at Chipotle? I'm all about it.
Well, yeah, I think it's a great question. And also, if you're counting calories, tortilla on the side, probably not a great move. But also, if you're an NFL athlete, you probably can afford the calories of a tortilla.
That's right. Absolutely. So we've talked about Wilson likely being the pick at number 2. How about the rest of this draft? I mean, we mentioned it, at the top here. The Jets have 5 picks in the top 86, 10 picks in total. Looking at pick 23, Ethan, for the Jets, pick 23 of the first round. That's the pick they got from Seattle in the Jamal Adams trade. What is a dream scenario for the Jets with pick 23?
The boring answer, unfortunately, Jake, is a really good player who's a starter. And whatever position that is the answer. Because I was curious who Jets fans wanted, at least from a position standpoint at 23. So I put a poll out there on Twitter. What do you want? And 64% of Jets fans who voted said offensive line. And offensive line isn't the sexy pick, but also you get the sense that Joe Douglas at some point will add an offensive lineman because of his background. And he's always stressed the importance of adding players up front. So players at 23, that makes sense. I think Tevin Jenkins is a popular name. Elijah Vera-Tucker, in terms of an offensive lineman, probably the dream scenario. Very likely he won't be there at 23, but also that's the dream scenario for fans and myself. Like, I don't know how Joe Douglas and his staff rate the tackles or rate the offensive linemen, but I will say that the depth of the offensive lineman group, speaking to Dane, both the inside and the outside of tackle, is pretty deep. So are there positions? This is what teams are figuring out. Like, 1, how do you rank your players? 2, would you go best player available or need, and what's the tiebreaker? And at 23, the Jets could really go anywhere. And I think the 2 positions that I would be surprised would be interior defensive line and safety. And other than that, and quarterback and punter and kicker. But other than those, I think that really anything is on the table. You look at the Jets in free agency, they added Justin Hardy at corner, but Justin Hardy is a primary special teamer. I don't think that the Jets signed him to play snaps on the outside at corner. Brian Poole, still a free agent at the slot position at corner. So would it be surprising if they went corner? No. Would it be surprising if they went edge? I think fans might be a little surprised, but I don't think so. When you look at what the 49ers had up front in San Francisco when Saleh was there, you had Bosa, Armstead, Buckner. I mean, you can't have enough good defensive linemen. And then you think about other positions. One position I will say that gets overlooked, and not necessarily at 23, but you think about the Jets linebacking core moving from a 3-4 to a 4-3. CJ Mosley's at the front of it in the middle, and he's played 3 quarters in 2 seasons. Jared Davis signs in the offseason. I think he'll have a much better, I think he's a good system fit with what the Jets are running. He has good height. He has good weight. He has good length, and he's got great speed. So you fill him in there. And then you got Blake Cashman, who's dealt with injuries the past 2 years. Even through an optimistic point of view, there's still some question marks there, and you need bodies there. So I think linebacker is a position that the Jets could add. I don't know necessarily where in the draft, but I think that's a position that often gets overlooked.
Ethan Greenberg is our guest, the New York Jets team reporter, joining us on our progressive guest line as we talk about the Jets and their 10 picks in the upcoming NFL draft. We saw this in year 1 with Joe Douglas, as far as year 1 actually having, draft picks to make. He traded down a bunch of times. He's shown the ability, even going back to, where he was with the Eagles and the Ravens. He comes from the same school of kind of navigating the draft board. Do you see that again this year? Do you see Joe Douglas possibly trading down and maybe, even trading up if the right players available for the Jets to try and target?
Yeah, I think really each draft is unique, but I will say one difference between last year and this year. Last year, the Jets didn't have the same draft capital they did or they do now this year, right? At the time of last year, the Jets did not trade Jamal Adams. Sam Darnold was a part of the team, so they had a pretty standard amount of draft picks. So you trade down, you still get Denzel Mims in that scenario, and you accumulate more draft picks. Now, what the Jets have in the 10 picks, not only do I think that they could trade up, I think a lot of the focus will be in the first round, just much like every year. If this player slides, could the Jets make a move? Yeah, they definitely have the ammunition to do so. I do think, though, that they could trade back because 23, depending on how you have your board, right? If you're like, you know what, there are 6 players we're comfortable with and a team a couple spots down want to make a move up to 23, yeah, I could see the Jets moving back and acquiring another pick. But also, I think what you got to keep in mind is the Jets have the ammunition to move up in the second round, back into the second round if they so choose. They have pick 34, then they have 66. So that's a 32 pick difference there. If there's a player that they view as, you know, they really want that player and he starts to slide a little bit in the second round, the Jets could make a move up back into the second round. Could they stay put? Absolutely. They have 10 picks. So I think that that's going to be the interesting part of all of this is how will Joe Douglas navigate this draft board with more capital in his pocket?
Finally, Ethan, in your job, you guys do such a great job on the Jets website and the Jets social media channels, getting a chance to, you know, kind of peel back the layers, so to speak, with players, coaches, front office executives. Who are some of your favorite people you've gotten a chance to connect with over the last couple of years working for the team? Some personalities that maybe, you know, the average Jet fan maybe wasn't aware of kind of what they were like when they're not wearing shoulder pads and a helmet on a Sunday or on the sidelines coaching the team.
Great question. Well, one of my favorite guys to talk to any day of the week, Florenzo Fatukasi. Fantastic name, great player, just a really fun guy to talk to, be around, a native New Yorker. And so we talked about that, you know, quite frequently. He's from Queens. I'm from Manhattan. So we bonded over originally how to fold a slice of pizza and what's proper, what's not proper, because there was someone who, you know, I'm not gonna expose anybody here, but this person folded their pizza in a way that I've never seen, and I had to ask Foley about it, and he was not very happy about it either. And Bless Austin, great guy. Braxton Berrios, great guy. I mean, the Jets locker room is filled with a lot of good dudes, but those are some of the guys that come to the top of my mind if you're talking about just having a normal conversation about anything.
Does Robert Saleh know how to properly fold his New York slice of pizza?
That's a great question, and I'm determined to figure out the answer, but I hope so. And I would say yes. My gut says yes. He seems like an intuitive guy, and I think that really intuition says you just pinch the crust a little bit and go for it. So I think that he'd be okay.
That's like a prerequisite to be the head coach of the Jets. There's no doubt about that. He's Ethan Greenberg. He's the New York Jets team reporter who's been so gracious with his time here, previewing the Jets in the draft. Thursday night, we find out what Joe Douglas will do. He's got 2 first-round picks, and as we mentioned here in the conversation, he has a total of 10 draft picks in the upcoming NFL draft. Ethan, a blast to get you on the show. Thanks so much for coming on, and I know you're going to be very busy over the next couple of days, so, you know, good luck, and we look forward to watching all the coverage.
Awesome, Jake. Appreciate the time.
Thanks for watching the full YouTube video. If you like what you saw, then please subscribe to my page for more content. Thank you.